So let's dive right into this by challenging a super traditional assumption right out of the gate. When we think about productivity losses, our minds almost always jump straight to the machines, right? A motor blows out, a conveyor belt snaps, the machine stops. But what really destroys a factory's productivity? Is it actually just the hardware, or is it something way more systemic? All right, Section 1, the illusion of OEE, more than a factory floor metric. Now, for decades, there's been this really dangerous widespread myth in manufacturing. And that myth is that overall equipment effectiveness, or OEE, is strictly an isolated production KPI. It gets treated like this isolated factory floor metric that solely belongs to the manufacturing team. But if you think about the operational philosophy behind supply access, specifically the idea of interconnected links functioning as a single unit, it points to a crucial reality. Supply chain and production absolutely cannot exist in separate vacuums. To actually survive and thrive, they have to operate as one synchronized, interconnected system. So let's completely redefine OEE based on that interconnected reality. OEE actually measures the health of your entire operational ecosystem. You gotta think about it functionally rather than just mechanically. I mean, if machine availability drops simply because the raw materials are missing, well, that's not a machine problem. That is a system-wide failure, and it reflects directly on your overall OEE. And this really exposes the absolute absurdity of departmental silos. You've got production blaming procurement for missing parts, while planning is over there blaming manufacturing for missing targets. And while everyone is so busy pointing fingers and aggressively defending their own little operational territory, your overall OEE is just quietly and steadily tanking in the background. Moving on to Section 2, the relay race. Material flow as the baton. I absolutely love this quote from Supply Access because it makes an abstract concept so tangible. Production and supply chain operate like a relay race. One runner must pass the baton perfectly. Think about an actual relay race. It doesn't matter if you have literally the fastest sprinter in the world on that final leg. If the handoff is fumbled, the whole team loses the race. It's that simple. So the absolutely crucial point here is understanding what exactly that baton is in a factory setting. That baton is material flow, it's planning stability, operational synchronization, and reliable execution. Every single time there is a failed handoff across any of these elements, it directly destroys your efficiency. But when the handoffs are smooth, you're in that operational blue zone. Flow is stable, execution is predictable, and things just work. Let's look at Section 3, the cost of disconnection. Inefficiency consumes thousands of dollars. Okay, we're shifting from operational theory to the incredibly painful financial reality. Let's paint a really vivid picture here to see what the real stakes are. Imagine a factory generating $2 million in monthly revenue. Sounds awesome, right? But the best production line in the world, packed with advanced robotics and highly trained operators, is totally useless without material availability. That same factory is likely carrying somewhere around $300,000 in fixed monthly costs. We're talking salaries, energy, overhead, equipment depreciation, the whole shebang. So I gotta ask you a hard-hitting question. When the line stops just because of a missing component, who pays that bill? Even when the machines go completely quiet due to a supply chain shortage, that fixed financial bleed just continues. The business keeps spending money every single hour without creating a single ounce of value to show for it. And the compounding financial damage is massive. You're deep in the red zone here. You don't just lose revenue while continuing to pay those fixed costs. No, you also incur these massive unplanned recovery costs. Things like overtime, weekend shifts, expedited freight. This kind of disruption absolutely destroys your gross profit. It completely proves that supply chain reliability isn't just some background support function. It is fundamentally profitability protection. Section 4, hidden inefficiencies and chaos. Death by 1,000 cuts. Now let's move away from those massive, obvious material shortages for a second and talk about the silent killers on your manufacturing floor. Imagine a seemingly insignificant 10-minute delay during a setup just because a forklift was late, or maybe a label was incorrect. During shift 1, people brush it off. It's only 10 minutes, right? But look at how this compounds. 30 minutes lost by day 1, hours lost by week 1. By the end of the month, those insignificant 10 minutes have snowballed into entire lost production days. The scariest part, what becomes normalized eventually becomes invisible. And remember, the blame isn't a one-way street here. This actually creates a vicious cycle of chaos. When the production floor is constantly changing priorities, it completely destabilizes the planning phase. That unstable planning leads to accumulating work in progress, or WIP, which ultimately creates just complete operational turbulence. A chaotic production floor deeply damages supply chain performance, feeding this endless loop. This requires a massive paradigm shift for a lot of folks. Inventory is not always protection. Far too often, it's actually just disguised inefficiency. Having excess WIP isn't a safety net. It actually causes warehouse congestion, slower material flow, and a ton of wasted time just searching for parts. It's essentially a band-aid over a severely broken process.
Which brings us to Section 5, Synchronization drives profit, transforming flow into financial results.
Just look at the stark contrast between these two realities. On one side, you have the reactive model. It's constant firefighting, massive excess WIP, and totally isolated department silos. But on the flip side, the synchronized green zone, you've got Kanban systems, incredibly stable material flow, and unified execution. This is the moment when you stop just moving boxes around a warehouse and you start actively engineering your profitability. Stable flow directly translates to bottom-line financial gains. Because honestly, when departments stop fighting and finally run the same relay race, the financial benefits are undeniable. Flow improves, planning finally stabilizes, and ultimately, your profitability is maximized. Your customer service metrics skyrocket simply because your margins are fiercely protected by a unified system. That synchronization between your supply chain and your production line is literally the most direct lever you have to boost your profit margins. And this brings us to the ultimate thesis of our explainer today. Operational excellence is synchronization, and synchronization is profit. Supply chain and production are not enemies. They aren't competing functions that should be fighting for budget. When your supply chain and your production teams unify to protect that flow, they aren't just saving time, they are directly printing profit for the business. That is how real, unshakable operational excellence is actually built.
So, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought as you step back and look at your own operational ecosystem today. Is your supply chain acting as a shield, protecting your OEE, or is it silently destroying your profit?